I'm Jim Henson, Director of the Texas Politics Project at the University of Texas at Austin. We're here today to have a conversation about politics and policy, not necessarily in that order, with State Representative Donna Howard of Austin, who serves as co-chair of the House Calendars Committee, as well as a member of the Appropriations, Higher Ed, and Administration Committees. Among other things, Representative Howard holds 2 degrees from the University of Texas at Austin, so we're extra glad to have you here. Welcome to UT.
Extra glad to be here.
Well, terrific. Well, let's dive right into it. Allowing for the fact that the budget, of course, is the one thing that has to be done. You know, what's important, you think? What needs to get done this time other than the essential thing or the budget, or what's the priorities be?
Well, I think the Speaker of the House, who's the leader of the body that I'm a part of, laid out some agenda items before session started, and I think we're pretty much focused on those things. It certainly does have to do with a responsible budget, but also has to do with making sure we're addressing the crisis of the foster care system, making sure that we're investing appropriately for small businesses and entrepreneurship, those kinds of things. You know, for me personally, I would like to see us do more in the realm of addressing the school finance dilemma that we're in, as well as more significant investment in higher education. We talk about wanting to have an educated workforce pipeline, and we slide back in terms of the monetary investment. I think that makes it very difficult to achieve those goals.
Well, let's start with public ed then, since you highlighted that and you've been active in that area. And that bill, HB 21, will be coming to the floor this week. Amendments were filed today. How well do you think that bill does at addressing the problems we need to address?
Well, I think it's a good first step for sure. Considering the fact that we're not going to be, apparently, addressing overall school finance reform, doing something is better than nothing. And in fact, you know, looking here at Austin ISD, that's the poster child for how dysfunctional the current finance system is when Austin actually sends the largest amount of recaptured dollars back to the state, almost $500 million of local property taxes. At the same time has about 60% of its kids on free and reduced lunch, which is our metric for being low income. It just doesn't make sense. And it's based on a formula that was developed decades ago that the weights, the cost of education index, none of those things have been updated. It does not reflect the current cost of delivering education. So I'm hopeful we'll do something. I'm hopeful about House Bill 21. It won't do everything we need, and it will only make a little bit of a step forward, but it is a step forward.
Before we came on the air, we were talking about kind of the arc of this in some ways. You said we should have done it last time. What do you think is different this time?
Well, I'll tell you what's different this time that makes it even more critical that we get on board, I think, is that last time was a bigger fix, and we actually had surplus dollars with which to work. We don't have those surplus dollars this time. This is a smaller step without the dollars. We weren't able to pass it when we actually had the dollars. I'm very concerned about letting this opportunity pass us by, and I don't want to see that happen. The schools need us to do some things now and not wait for another legislative session.
So it was one of the things that helped this time was that everybody had the excuse last time of waiting to see what the court was going to say.
Right.
And the court actually put the legislature in kind of an awkward position in the sense of telling you should do it, but not making you.
Exactly. And that was a different outcome for the other courts' rulings. But, you know, the fact is that everybody talks about it. Republicans, Democrats, everybody at the legislature thinks that we need to fix school finance. It's not anything that's not shared by all. But obviously the devil's in the details and how you make that happen. And the way I like to think about it is that, you know, you have a pie that pays for public education. And if you keep the pie the same size and you just divvy up the slices differently, there's winners and losers. You can't pass that. You really need to have a bigger pie so that when you make different slices, you're hopefully not getting any losers. Some people aren't going to gain as much as others. And that's kind of certainly what we were seeing last session and kind of what we're seeing this session as well. Most school districts will see some gains.
And that's a good sign in terms of gains translating into votes, it looks like.
Well, I think so, yeah.
One would hope.
I hope.
Also in public ed, what do you make of this? What I think of as the strange case of pre-K.
Yeah.
How do you explain that to the public? And that there's all this jockeying around pre-K. It seems to be a good idea. The governor's behind it.
Right.
Neither chamber seems to want to do it. Is this a policy difference?
I think it's a mix of policy and politics, which a lot of things are, of course. Last session, my office and others worked really hard on trying to get more funding in for quality pre-K. We know from the studies that have been done what works, and it's very difficult to achieve the things that work with only paying for a half day, which is what the state currently does. A lot of districts recognize that full day is very important. And in fact, like here in Austin, they use other funds. They find other funds with which to have an actual full day of pre-K. San Antonio actually taxes themselves, and part of their sales tax goes to a full day pre-K. We were pushing to have more funding and to have a set of criteria that need to be met. Certainly the governor was on board, but he was on board for a lesser amount. And what finally passed was that lesser amount, which certainly benefited some school districts, but was not enough to go around and make a huge amount of difference. So the political part, of course, is when he came back for the State of the State and basically wagged his finger at the legislature and said, either fully fund this or don't do it at all. And I think the sentiment was, okay, let's look at how we might do it differently, knowing that what we had set up last time was did not have the significant impact that we had wanted it to have. So this time, the House is putting in the amount of money that the governor was requesting, but rather than having it in his grant program, we've created another, what's being called an enhancement supplement that will go to all pre-K classes throughout the state, not just to those that would apply for a grant, which is what the previous program did. So it's still being funded in a different way with the hopes that at some point we'll recognize the need to invest, it's going to be probably another $1 billion at least to get us all up to a full day pre-K.
And as you say, this is a tough time to find $1 billion.
It sure is.
Or even $500,000.
It is.